Hey, Justin here, the Kickstarter guy, and today is day 7 of 30 crowdfunding trading videos in 30 days, where I'm bringing content that I want to bring to you, where I'm answering people's questions and concerns, which, by the way, if you want to send me some stuff to go over, some problems that you're facing or some fears that you might have or some specific challenges or questions like Facebook advertising or something like that, I've now put together a survey that's designed to quickly allow people to let me know what they want to learn. Worst sentence in the world. So if you want a link to that survey to give me feedback, let me know content that I can bring to you so that, these videos are actually helpful to you, not just what I think you should know. Just comment survey down below in the comments. If you're listening to this on the podcast, please email me, justin@thekickstarterguy.com, and I will reply with that survey link, or my assistant will. But comments, wherever you're watching this, just comment survey below, and I will reply with a link to that survey so you can ask me questions. All right, so let's dive into how to virtually guarantee a successful campaign. Okay, so here's the piece about this. The way that you virtually guarantee that you have a successful campaign is stop focusing on failure. Now, I realize that may not have been why you came to this video. You're probably looking for some practical stuff. So let me give you some quick practical stuff. Days 2, 3, and 4 are about the 3 core components of a successful campaign. And that's where you should start. Go watch those videos. And I talk a lot about the numbers, how that breaks down, how you need backup, what kind of time frame. A lot of basic information that sets the stage for putting together a successful campaign. But until you know those numbers, and until you've ran those numbers for your own campaign, until you've done some of the timeline work that I talk about, start thinking about the team and all that kind of stuff that I go through in those 3 videos, everything else kind of doesn't matter, because everything else falls under those 3 core components. So you can go to YouTube to find that. If you're listening to this on the podcast, I've got a podcast now. You can go to my Facebook group. I think hackingkickstarter.com will forward you to it. Totally free, no spam, all that kind of stuff. So that's the practical stuff. But what I said earlier about, essentially virtually guaranteeing a successful campaign by not focusing on failure, let me kind of talk about why. So I've had this survey out for a couple of days. And of course, I've had, tons of clients over the past few years. And one of the big things that I hear a lot is I'm afraid of spending all this time and effort and energy and money on doing a campaign and it failing. And then I've got nothing to show for all that work. Or I spent all this time, energy, money doing a campaign and it fails and I've embarrassed myself in front of my colleagues and all that kind of stuff. Okay, totally valid. Totally valid. The statistics for successful campaigns are really, really low. Sometimes as little as like single digits if we're talking 30, 40, 50,000, right? We all hear the headlines, the IndieWire headlines of like, Veronica Mars raised this amount of millions and Super Troopers raised this amount of millions, or we'll see, celebrity-backed campaigns. I had one. David Lynch was in connection with a documentary about Twin Peaks, right? And so like that got a bunch of press and it raised $300,000 or something like that. Those are the headlines, but those are the outlier campaigns. The working woman's campaign, the grassroots campaign, that is really where I've helped 145 filmmakers launch and be successful. That's okay. There's the practical stuff, but it's that mindset piece that's so important, and focusing on that failure. And I, again, totally understand why that would be scary, because the percentages in that range are really low. And we probably have all seen and know people who seemed to work really damn hard and then fail. Okay. So let's talk about that. I think failure has become, it's a 4-letter word, literally. But I feel like in our culture, everybody sees everybody's best self, right? We see their Instagram page and it's like how people want to present in the world. In fact, that's what this digital sphere has really done, is you can totally curate and choose how you present to the world. And most of the time, it's not your bad hair days and the yucky stuff that's going on in life. It's all the great stuff. Okay. And so I see this too with With crowdfunding, we see the successful campaigns. We want that, but then we see the people who've worked hard and they don't get it. And we're like, oh my gosh, what happens, right? So here's the encouragement. I got on Kickstarter statistics today and discovered that there's 23,000 successful film campaigns. And that's just film. I help game people and musicians and that kind of stuff. I think musicians was like 30,000, right? So but let's just talk film. That's most of my client base. 23,000. You can actually look it up on Google. Just Google Kickstarter stats and it'll pop right up. 23,000 successful campaigns. Now, Seed and Spark has had several thousand. I'm sure they're probably getting close to 10, if not over 10,000. Couldn't find the number specifically. Indiegogo, same thing. Been around actually longer than Kickstarter, so I imagine the numbers are close. So let's just say 50,000 successful crowdfunding campaigns for film. Now, I want you to seriously take a deep breath, hang there for a second, and I want you to imagine 50,000 people. There's you, and then there's another person, and then there's another person. And on this side, there's another person and another person. Times 50,000. Times 50,000. 50,000 filmmakers have found a path to success. There is a way. I talk about it in the 3 core components. You can get help, me or somebody else. You can hire somebody. You can go do a crap ton of research on the internet. But there is absolutely a path to success. And in my own personal experience, the clients who are focused on not failing freaking manifest the failure, man. It's all they're thinking about, as opposed to thinking about the marketing and the team and the timing and all this kind of stuff that I've gone through in past videos and will continue to go through throughout the length of this. But the reason why I wanted to land here is because it's the wrong question. How do I not fail my campaign? How do I make sure it's successful? It's the wrong question. The focus should be on the process of crowdfunding, not the result. So how do I find the process that can get me to having a successful campaign? What are the action steps that I have to undertake? Okay. So, you can post questions below. I'm happy to answer them as it comes to specifics, whether it's in this video or in future videos. But the big takeaway that I want you to think about is this metaphor. Let's say you walked into a gymnasium and like a gymnastics gymnasium, and you're seeing people do backflips and twirls and all this, crazy acrobatics, literally, right? If you look at that and go, oh, man, I can't do that. Well, of course you can't do that. You just walked into the gym for the first time, right? You've got to learn the skills to do it. And then once you've learned the skills, those gymnastics, they've learned the skills and they've practiced them. And now they are comfortable enough to utilize them. And so doing a backflip for them is another day at the office, mostly, right? And they have spotters. You can get a spotter, in this metaphor, that would be like a coach or a successful crowdfunding, friend who's been successful that you can ask, right? So you got a little bit of a spotter there. But realize that you're going to have to go through a process of developing specific skills before you can really ever even hope to have any result or even launch a campaign anyway, right? So take the time to find that path for you. Interview people who have been successful in their campaigns. Get on Google and do that research. Take all the energy that you would have taken and put in the sort of, the fear of whether or not you're going to be successful, and funnel it into how am I going to do this? Because if you can break down that process, listen, I've got a 97% success rate. I don't have guru magic. A little bit. Maybe I have a little bit of guru magic when my clients get to a certain point or something. I can I've got the phone numbers of people at Kickstarter. I can call them and get a stat pick, that kind of stuff, if they're worth it. But the truth of it is that most of what I do is simply presenting the plan, presenting the path, breaking down the steps. Now, in my case, these steps have been tested and proven over dozens of clients and campaigns. So I feel really confident that that's like an efficient roadmap, right? But the bottom line is that all I've really done is kind of studied my own process and studied my own clients, learned from the failures that have happened and learned a ton from the successes. Every few months, there's a new technique or a new approach or a new angle because I'm watching people crowdfund and I'm studying their process. And that's how I got here. My first campaign, I've done 2 personal campaigns in terms of like for myself, right? The way that I got to being the #1 guy that teaches crowdfunding for filmmakers, and 5.3 million raised, 140 something campaigns launched, 97% success rate, is just being a student of the process. So you being here and watching that video, that's how you virtually guarantee a successful campaign. You watch this video, you watch previous videos, you watch upcoming videos that I'm going to be putting out. You go interview, like I said, interview your successful friends. Go study crowdfunding. Go study successful campaigns. You'll start to notice patterns. Hell, just like go study my clients. You'll quickly see how I tell people to lay out their page, what their videos should look like, what kind of rewards and perks I think are good ideas. Like you could just hack me basically by studying the people that have been successful. All right. So the big challenge to this whole idea of like, how do you virtually guarantee a successful campaign, is I really want to challenge the idea that failure is somehow this bad word that you have to shy away from. You can hedge against it by learning specifics. You can hedge against it by focusing on the process in general. And then ultimately, I encourage you to let go of that concept. Because if you do everything well and it's still not successful, that's just information. That's just information. Maybe you didn't do it well enough. Great. So go figure out how to do it. Maybe the project you were going to spend all this time, money, and effort on doesn't really have an audience yet. Or you've learned that you need to figure out how to find an audience. Let me tell you, you'd rather figure out how to find an audience for a crowdfunding campaign before you've made the thing, rather than make the thing and then discover like, oh, either people really don't like this or I don't know how to find the people that will like this, right? Okay, so if you've got questions, again, please go to the kickstarterguy.com/survey if you want to fill out the survey, or you can just comment survey below and I'll answer that there. And if any questions got sparked from this discussion, from this headline, how to virtually guarantee a successful campaign, please let me know what they are. Put them in the comments below. Shoot me an email, justin@thekickstarterguy.com. This whole process is to help you guys get better and to start breaking down some really pervasive, toxic myths around this process. Because the cool thing is that when you do this right, when you focus on the process and you start to break down those pieces bit by bit, not only, again, 97% success rate, not only do you have a hugely high chance of success, but it can also be fun. It can be something that increases your skill set. It can actually become a marketable thing on your resume, frankly. I've booked a couple gigs as either a director or writer because I know how to crowdfund, and the producers know that at some point that's going to happen. And so it's like, oh, cool, 2 for 1. We'll get this guy to write it or direct it and also help with the crowdfunding campaign, right? So I hope this message helped. I realize it's not a just list full of specifics. And so again, if a question popped up, let me know what that is and we'll talk about it. And until then, peace. Have a lovely weekend.